Okay, so I thought I was going to change it up a little bit, and I had a blue background. Actually, cool effects as well, but we're going to have to sense this. So I'm going to talk about crowdfunding and kind of the future of the game industry, but I'm also going to kind of expand that and bring it out to like the wider world. So stuff maybe like students and people who are a little bit older would find more interesting. So let's start. So crowdfunding is basically the concept where a crowd funds something. It's kind of right. So the practice of funding a product or venture by raising many small amounts of money from a large number of people, typically via the internet. We have this revolution through things like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, which are really allowing people via the internet to fund projects that they want. And why am I going to talk about the video game industry in particular? Because the video game industry, like it says up there, entertainment industry, is a really good model for showing how this can be very effective and how it can raise vast sums of money. So let's go to the next slide. So I'm going to talk about excuse me, I'm a little sick still. I'm going to talk about three things during this entire speech. So history, kind of the history of crowdfunding, like what it has done in the past, successful ventures, kind of development, what we're going to see in the future, at kind of scope, like what is crowdfunding, what does it entirely entail, and what has it done? Like what are big things that crowdfunding has done? So let's continue. So these are kind of three things in the video game industry in particular that have seen a massive impact from crowdfunding. So let's just start. So Double Fine Adventure is actually a video game produced by the guy who created the game Psychonauts for PS2. And Psychonauts was a well-received game. Everyone loved it. It was one of those games where people were like, why isn't there a sequel? This game's so awesome. And actually the creator tweeted and said, we would love to make a second game, we just can't find the funding. And actually they created this Kickstarter to create a new game called Double Fine Adventures. They didn't even want to create Psychonauts 2 until someone said, make it. And he said, well, if I'm going to be able to make this game, I'm going to need some funding. I'm going to need actually $1.5 million. And people were so enthused. They're like, oh my god, I want this game, Psychonauts 2 so much. We're just going to throw your money, our money at you. So they actually raised $3 million, $3.3 million from people around the world. And usually venture capitalists find it hard to find, $10,000. Like, people invest in me. I want to start this new venture. How am I going to get the money? But $3 million simply because people love the idea of finding Psychonauts 2 so much. And this really started the revolution of people realizing in the game industry that there's money there. People want stuff. If people want stuff, they're going to spend money on it. It's very simple logic. So why haven't we explored this before? And this really started the revolution of AAA game companies, which are game companies that produce AAA games like Blizzard, Valve, other game companies that I'm going to talk about, like Obsidian Entertainment, which actually was the second highest funded Kickstarter game to this date, Project Eternity. It raised $7.4 million, which is a lot of money for a video game, right? And because of that, it really started opened this new avenue. So video game companies now don't have to pitch to investors. They aren't like this based on a reputation anymore. They can say, the crowd wants this, the people want this, give us money, or please donate as much as you would like to us and we'll create this game for you. The second game here, called Faster Than Light, is actually, like you probably can't read that very well, but it says 2005% funded. People, it was actually created by two startup indie guys who quit their jobs to create a game about kind of space travel and based on their love for board games and stuff like that. They're like, oh my god, we really want to make this game. People, just give us $20,000, right? And people will love the idea so much, they actually overfunded it so much that it raised $200,000. And I picked this particularly because the problem with games is they take quite a long time to come to fruition. Oftentimes it can take 3 to 10 years for a game to be designed, right? But Faster Than Light was actually published in around 7 or 8 months turnaround before it was released to the general public. And people love the game so much. They're like, oh my god, we're getting our money's worth and more. We've invested in this game. This is awesome. I love it, right? So it shows that crowdfunding can, I'm also going to go on and talk about how there is negative effects. You get buyer's remorse from it. But people loved it so much that they overfunded it. And the third option is actually a new video game console that's coming. It's called Ouya. And why is it cool? Why have people donated $8.5 million to get this thing off the ground? That's more money than AAA companies like Microsoft or Xbox can get from their people. Why have people thrown so much money at this? Well, they said this is the future. They have been able to go straight to the consumer, the people who will be using this particular device, and they go, this is the future, guys, invest in us. And people have been so thrilled with the idea of investing in it online. So basically how it works is that you plug this device into your computer and it streams games from the internet onto your TV. It doesn't use any disk. You don't need to go out to the GameStop or a game, as you guys in the UK would use, or buy a game. You just have to stream it directly from them. And because of that, it can go cross-platform. So you don't need to design a game for PC. You don't need to design a game particularly for this console. You just have to use the Android-based web design software that can be multi-console. So you can play the same game that you play on this, on your iPhone, on your iPad, on your Android, or even on your computer. And then you can stream all of that to your computer, or to your TV. So this is great. And people loved it so much, this idea was so revolutionary that they were willing to put 904% overfunded. And this is the amount of money that is commanded in this current market. People are willing to put so much money into this. But there's some bad things that come with this. And can we go to the next slide? Caveat emptor. This is actually kind of an inside joke where parents are in here somewhere about a crossword puzzle we were doing. And we're like, what is this word? Let the buyer beware in Latin? Like, who uses this? Apparently a lot of people. Look at it. Caveat emptor, it means let the buyer beware. So there's actually downsides to overfunding. If I am going around the internet like I usually do, I'm browsing Kickstarter, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I see like a 5-minute video that's telling, give me 40 pounds and this is what you'll get, right? I see a cool video, the guy's like flashing lights everywhere. I'm like, oh my God, this is really amazing. Here's 40 pounds, right? But the problem is, when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to when I actually receive this product, is it what I bought in for before, right? So it's changing the dynamic of the customer. So if I have $5 a day and I really want a burger from Burger King, I don't go out and I don't invest in a company to make me Burger King burgers. No, I go to Burger King and I buy a burger. No, can you go back? Yeah, there you go. I invest in Burger King. I don't invest in Burger King burgers. I just go out and buy a burger, right? So this is really changing the dynamic of the customer. No longer am I someone that's like, I would really like a video game. I'm going to go out and buy it. It's, no, I would really like this video game, so I'm going to invest in it. And this kind of delays the expectation. So I am expecting a certain product to come. I invest money in it, but it might not be the product that comes. And it's actually, there was a video game called Banner Saga. And it was going to be based on a tabletop RPG. And it was going to put online, it was going to be multiplayer, it was going to have all these cool things. They promised all of these cool things. So much so that their original target was around $50,000. They got $700,000, right? They missed their target date twice. So when they said they were going to release the game, they actually said, we're so sorry, all this money, right, we're going to put into funding more of this particular game. We're going to put in more offers, right? Then they missed the target date again. And so much of the community was like, wait a second, I put all this money into it, I want this product. But they weren't getting that product, right? So it changes the dynamic of the customer, and this is dangerous. We have to potentially see in the future how this is going to affect like people's reaction, because they need to realize that when they go out to these particular websites like Indiegogo or Kickstarter, they're investing and they're not buying a product, and that still hasn't been like transformed. So let's go next. Talk about like the wider scale of crowdfunding. So crowdfunding right now, really, if you look at Kickstarter, it was mainly funded for the idea of creating crowdsourced video games and crowdsourced music. But there's crowdfunding everywhere. TED was even kind of crowdfunded a little bit. Like we had a civic and political project. I mean, you know what I talk about, kind of Obama's funding campaign and how it was crowdfunded. I'm going to talk about science. Like there's this website called PetriDish where no longer do scientists that are trying to fund a particular experiment need to go to large funding bodies that are orchestrated by the government or private funding bodies to get a large chunk of money. Instead, they can create maybe a short little video. They can show the people, we have all this cool information. We want to create this cool experiment. Will you fund it, right? Private sector, it goes the same. So Indiegogo is mainly focused on starting up private ventures. So there was a game studio that did media for games. It did shoutcasting for games, but it got funding through Indiegogo. They're like, this is really cool. You guys really like this. Fund it so we can bring you cool stuff. I believe there was a woman who actually was creating a YouTube series about how feminism is affecting the real world. Like, she didn't obviously come through with that, but it's the same idea. You have private ventures that people want to get, funded. We actually have personal development. I was kind of going, didn't want to go too raunchy, but the adult entertainment industry also is crowdfunding. Like, people obviously need to get their kick somehow, and people are offering that for money. Crowdfunding, right? Awesome, cool. Let's move on. So experimental change. This is actually supposed to be a pun based on science, right? But I'm going to talk about the wider community. So it changes the dynamic of the wider community. No longer do I, as an individual, let's say living downtown Aberdeen, and I want to really renovate Victoria Park. So I go around with my bucket on Osborne Lane and be like, can you donate to my Restore Victoria Park fund? Instead, I post that on Indiegogo. I'm like, look guys, from all around the world, from America, India, Japan, China, look at this cool park I have in my town. Want to fund me so that I can build it back up again. So it changes the dynamic of the community, it globalizes it. No longer are people so focused on restoring their own community. Now people are focused on restoring the world. So we have people in, I know there was a Kickstarter that was started to bring natural lighting to people in Africa, where they used bottles that were filled with a little bit of bleach and water, and they poked them through holes, and people were like, give us this money so we can bring this awesome new tool to these communities in Africa. And people happily donated like millions of dollars to this awesome new idea. It kind of globalizes the community. Like, no longer am I concerned with just my next door neighbor. I'm also concerned about people in Africa, people in India, people in America, and this is great, you know? Once we break down the borders, you know, on the national scale, we don't have to worry about the government doing all these international relations. Instead, I can just donate my aid directly through this. And we already have programs, right? So, like, Red Cross already does this. It's crowdfunded, right? So Red Cross is crowdfunded. Like, people don't usually immediately jump to that, but a lot of these things that were already set up are crowdfunded. And we're bringing this to a lot more cooler places, and they're bringing a lot cooler products. There was a thing called a Life Straw that was actually funded through Kickstarter, which allowed people to drink water that could potentially be contaminated by having a filter that was in a straw, that they could suck water through it and filter the water. And I thought that was amazing. And I was like, I'll donate some money to this. And this is really breaking down barriers between communities. Can we go to the next slide? Awesome. Voting with your wallet, right? So when you have these, you don't only have Kickstarter focusing on stuff that is bringing things, but you also have Kickstarters and crowdfunded ideas that are bringing ideas. And this is great because people can say, I like this idea, so I'm going to give it money, right? So a good idea, but this is the Obama campaign. And the Obama campaign in particular, he said, hey, if you want me to get voted into office, just donate $1 or $2, donate $10, donate $100 to my cause. And he actually managed to compete with the super PAC created by the Republicans, who were getting, like the Cohen brothers, to donate billions of dollars to their, or not billions, but multiple millions of dollars to their fund. And so Obama managed to crowdfund his entire election campaign that raised a lot of money. It was a very large sum of money. And it allowed people to vote with their wallets. And this is the same for anything. So no longer do I have to go to Aberdeen Council, right, and be like, can you release funds so I can build up Victoria Park? Now I can be like, community, is this what you want? And if this is what you want, then you'll give me money for it. It's a very, very easy way for people to vote with their wallets. And the same goes for investors, for monitoring risk. So when you go and you want to investors and you're like, can you invest in my company? They'll be like, what's the risk analysis of putting money into this, right? Well, if I can then put up a crowdfunding or start up a Kickstarter and go, if the community likes it, right, they'll fund my product. But maybe that's only half of my money. Maybe I'm getting the other half from investors. Now investors can go, oh my God, Faster Than Light got 2,005% funding. The community must really want this, right? So it's a very smart idea for me to invest my money. This seems like a very good return. And it's a very quick way for investors. It's good for everyone. It's good for the creators of video games. It's good for the creators of other Kickstarters. It's good for the creators of people on Indiegogo to manage risk very easily, right? This is the future of other impacted fields. So this is like a triple pun, but it's kind of hard to see. So Obama, he ran on the Change platform, right? But there's also, I'm going to talk about the money left over from these Kickstarters, because it's actually quite bad. Like, having 205% funded, it seems like a good thing at first, but when you're starting these Kickstarters, and I only want $10,000, right? And I'm happy with $10,000, so I set up my Kickstarter at $10,000, and then suddenly I have $5 million sitting in my bank. What do I do with that money, right? It becomes a really hard choice. Do I spend it investing? Do I give people more than they ask for? And oftentimes, people don't want more than they ask for. I'll hark back to Banner Saga. where Bannersaga actually released stuff that people didn't ask for, and the community got mad. They're like, why aren't you focusing on releasing the stuff that we did ask for? Why are you releasing the stuff we didn't? And they're like, wait a second, you gave us all this extra money so we could. And so you get this problem where the consumer, because they're so caught up in the role of being the consumer, they're not seeing the fact that they actually invest in something. So this could be potentially bad. And this is bad when you look at AAA rated companies, like I was talking about earlier, Product Eternity, which was made by Obsidian Games, came out of other cool games like Morrowind, Oblivion. You guys haven't heard of them, it's okay. They're cool games, I promise. These companies are commanding like $3.5 million. People are expecting these games to be very, very good. So they invest in them because they think they're buying a game, right? And this is bad because when I go at the end of the day, this comes out 2 more years, I'm like, wait a second, man, Project Eternity isn't all cracked up that I wanted to be, but I've invested like 150 pounds in this, right? That's more than I would originally spend on a game, but I'm not happy with this. So who am I not going to be happy with? I'm not going to be happy with Obsidian Entertainment, even though they delivered on their promises. And even if they go more than that, and they go more than their promises, like I was talking with Bannersaga, they release more stuff, I'm still not happy because I still am not getting what I thought I was getting in the first place. And also, when you campaign on a platform which is change, like Obama, right? Let's change gears for a second. So Obama's entire campaign was, it's time for change, right? Cool little pun there. But it's time for change. So we're gonna bring around change. So how does he does that? He asks everyone in the country for just a little bit, right? But it also warps expectations, right? People are voting again with their wallet. They're expecting something, and they don't get what they want, right? It changed the dynamic. I'm buying a label. I'm buying a brand, but I'm buying a political idea. It's 2 different things. And I think this is potentially, it's bad in the future. We need to find some way to rectify this because crowdfunding is the future. Sole investors who come along, and those are the only people that offer money, just isn't the entire market. Everyone in this room probably has something that they're passionate about, is willing to spend money, whether it be from the local library that they're willing to put money into, or a niche book that someone's like, give me another $500 so I can self-publish this, or a game like I would happily invest in, like, or art or something else. Those are all niche things, but people need to realize that when they go into that agreement, they are investing in it. And I think at this stage, crowdfunding isn't there, and hopefully it will be in the future. So in conclusion, right, crowdfunding is the future, definitely, because it allows for very cool things to come to fruition, because cool things like LifeStraw and like the light bulbs in Africa, you aren't going to get a return of that because people aren't buying that, people are donating that. Instead of people like investors who are only interested in a monetary return, people like you and me can see the benefits of that. We get return in happiness and emotion. We're like, I've spent my money wisely on this, and I get a good return. And I think because of that, it's really bringing around a better society who are spending their money on cool things that they enjoy. It also benefits them, it benefits everyone else. And for all these reasons, crowdfunding is awesome. So thank you guys for listening to me.